In this video, we go over how to factor polynomials completely, and we do the following 5 problems. All right, we're going to go over how to factor completely. Now, let's say I just asked you to factor 20. Well, you could say that 20 is 4 times 5, but that's not the complete factorization. So you would have to take any number that is not prime and factor it some more. So for instance, 4 is 2 times 2 times 5. So when you're factoring, you have to keep factoring until each factor can't be factored any further. So the prime factorization is really what we're looking for when we're talking about numbers. That's 20. Now, of course, you could have done this differently. You could have said, well, 20 is 2 times 10. And then, of course, 10 could be factored further as 2 times 5. And again, you would get 2 times 2 times 5. And of course, the order of the factors doesn't matter. You could put the 5 in the middle, 2 times 5 times 2. Well, the same thing is true when you're factoring polynomials. Okay, so let's say you wanted to factor x squared minus 5x plus 6. In this case, you have to use one of the methods I've shown you for factoring, and this would take one step because we would have x minus 2 and x minus 3. If you do the FOIL method, you will get back to x squared minus 5x plus 6. And then you look at each factor and you say, can you factor it any further? No. You can't factor x minus 2 any further, and you can't factor x minus 3 any further. But let's say this problem had been 3x cubed minus 15x squared plus 18x. Let's say this was the problem. Okay? And again, the question is, how am I going to factor this completely? Step 1 is always the same. Oops. Let's do that right. You're going to factor out the GCF if possible. All right, so for this first problem, there was no common factor in x squared minus 5x plus 6. But in the second problem, the very first step in every single problem is to see if there's a common factor. All right, so we've got 3x cubed minus 15x squared plus 18x. There is a common factor, and we want to take out the greatest common factor. So that would be 3x. All right, now what's left? We have 3x squared minus 5x plus 6. Oops, not 3x squared, just x squared. Look familiar? So here's the thing. We factored out the 3x. Now, can we factor what's in parentheses any further? The question is, can you factor x squared minus 5x plus 6? Well, yes, actually we did that in step 1. So that's what you could do over on the side or on scratch paper, figure out, because there's more than one method people use to factor that. But after you figure out how to factor it, you write that down next to the 3x, because you need to say, well, this is the same thing as x minus 2 times x minus 3. So when you're done, remember, factoring is the opposite of multiplying. So when you factor completely, I end up really with 4 factors. Can you see them? There's a 3, there's an x minus 2, and there's an x minus 3. So if you multiply 2 together and then multiply by that by the third term and then by the fourth term, you would end up with a 3x cubed minus 15x squared plus 18x. Now the easiest way to multiply it back out, again you would do this on scratch paper, is do the x minus 2 times x minus 3, and you would get this x squared minus 5x plus 6, and then you could multiply that by 3x all at once. And you get back to 3x cubed minus 15x squared plus 18x. All right, so let's do another problem. So we're going to factor completely 4x to the fourth minus 18x cubed minus 10x squared. Step 1 is to see if there's a greatest common factor, and if there is, we factor that out. All right, so what's the greatest common factor here? Well, it's 2x squared, 2x squared. So what would we have left? 2x squared, right? Minus 9x minus 5. Okay. Now, as you go along, you could check. If you multiply that out, would you get back to that 4x to the fourth minus 18x cubed minus 10x squared? All right, now I have to look at what's in parentheses and figure out how to factor that. Now, I've shown you many, many ways to factor that. That you would do on scratch paper, and it's going to factor into two binomials. And the question is, after you're done doing it, you're going to put them down here. So what's that going to be? If I do it by the trial factors method, it's going to be a 5 and a 1 and a minus and a plus. Let's see. If I do the FOIL method, I have the 2x squared. I've got minus 10x and plus 1x. That's my negative 9x here. And my last term is negative 5. So that those two factors, 2x plus 1 times x minus 5, is the correct factorization for 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. But remember, 2x squared was also a factor. So you have to remember to bring that down so that this is your final answer. What it means is if you multiplied this all back out, you would end up with 4x to the fourth minus 18x cubed minus 10x squared. All right, here's one for you to try. So put the video on pause and try factoring this problem completely. Okay, step 1, see if there's a common factor. So you look at the three terms. I see a common factor of 10x cubed m. So that's 10x cubed m. And that leaves me a 10x squared minus 17x plus 3. Hopefully you got that. You want to take out the greatest common factor, and hopefully when you're done it looks like a nice quadratic, an x squared term, an x, and a constant. So we still have this as part of the factors, and now I need to factor 10x squared minus 17x plus 3. Again, I'm not going to go over how to factor that because there are several ways you could do it, but you could do that on scratch paper, and then you come back and you write your answer, which is going to be 2x minus 3 and 5x minus 1. You could use the sum product method, the box method, my sneaky method. I've shown you lots of methods. Okay, now you look at each factor. Can you factor 2x minus 3 any further? Can you factor 5x minus 1 any further? No. So that's the factorization. All right, last one, tricky one. Factor completely. You could try it on your own first. Okay, so we're going to look for the greatest common factor. Wow. Okay, well, I see 6, 33, and 15, so I see between those numbers 3 is a common factor. But I also see a 3x minus 5 as a factor in all of these. So 3x minus 5 is also a factor in all of these. So what do I have left if I pull out a 3 times a 3x minus 5? So for this first term, which is already kind of factored, I've got the 2 to get back to the 6, right? And I've got the x squared. Second one, what am I going to have to multiply this by to get the 33, 3x minus 5 times x? Well, I'm going to have an 11x. And the last term, that'll be a plus 5. So then I look at each parentheses and see if I could factor further. 3x minus 5 is as far as I could go. And now, again, you could do this on scratch paper. You're going to have to figure out how to factor 2x squared plus 11x plus 5, and that's going to be 2x plus 1 times x plus 5. So that's our challenge problem there. And that's how to factor that completely. So remember, you're always going to take out the greatest common factor, and then you're going to check each factor that you still have in parentheses, in this case, and see if you could factor it any further. And if you can't, you're done.